Welcome, everyone, to the podcast that I'm going to be starting up. It is going to be called the Sports Review Podcast, and we are going to be talking everything sports, all current events. But the first thing I want to start off with is things that have to be changed in different sports. So the first topic I'm going to be talking about is soccer. So as you know, this week there are Champions League games, some of the biggest games in the world, and there have been a lot of problems in those games, specifically with refereeing, flopping, injury time, rules that are being displayed in soccer. Now I'm going to be talking about each sport, starting off with soccer, of things that could be changed. So the first thing with soccer is the time. So I know there's been rumors of UEFA and FIFA setting up stop time. Basically, when the ball goes out of play, the time would stop. And I mean, in my opinion, this would help, but it could bring a lot of controversy. Who's going to stop the time? Is the referee going to stop the time? Are you going to have the home official stop a time? I mean, there's a lot of questions there. You saw how long it took to bring VAR into soccer after so many other sports already had it. So we'll see with that. The number two thing I want to talk about on this list is faking injury. So soccer has a big problem with faking injuries. I mean, every single game, if a team's up, it's basically normal now for them to fake an injury, waste time, go down. And there's really nothing that referees can do. There's really nothing that FIFA has come up with to change. My suggestion would be, if a player's down you can use, the last 5 minutes of a game or last 10 minutes of a game. If a player's down for more than 30 seconds to a minute, they got to come out of the game. That's literally the only thing I can think of right now to prevent these fake injuries. If a player's rolling around for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute, they got to come off the field. And you can have an implementation of they're out for a minute, they're going to be out for 2 minutes at the end of the game, so their team's down a man. This is something that hockey does with penalties. It's tough to punish a team when a player gets hurt, but this is something that could prevent, at the end of games, you see players dropping down and staying down for a minute and a half, sometimes even 2 minutes. So if a player's faking an injury and they're down for more than 30 seconds, more than a minute, the referee could take them out of the game and they have to basically sit out for a minute or two. That's a thought I had there. And then also for soccer, you need to have clear rules for handballs, clear rules for penalties. In the Champions League game with Juventus and Porto, you saw the ball hit the player's hand when they were trying to clear it, and he controlled it with his arm. It fell down in front of him, and he was able to clear the ball. If that's not a handball, I don't know what is. FIFA referees have to... this has been going on for so long. Handballs are handballs, and if it's in the box, it should be a penalty no matter what. Unless their arm is right on their side or their hands are behind their back. It shouldn't be, but this has been clearly a problem, especially with penalties. Fouls inside the box. You see players diving. You see flopping. What can you do about this? Center referees can give out yellow cards if they see a flop, like straight yellow if they see a flop. No matter what time it is in the game, no matter where it is, no matter how small it is, if they see a clear flop, I think that should be a straight yellow to prevent this. So next thing is baseball. A lot of changes have been mentioned and implemented for the time of the game. I think the time of game is fine. There's not really too much problem with the time of game. The pace is something that could be considered. The time between Pitches is something to look at. I don't think it's a huge problem. I honestly think the game is fine. You could make little tweaks here. If you want to put a pitch clock in, you can do that. But what if the pitcher goes over? Is the pitch counted as a ball? I mean, does the runner go to first base? Could you win a game because the pitcher doesn't throw a pitch in 25 seconds? I don't know how you could really implement that. Can you maybe implement it for the first half of the game, the first 5 innings, maybe first 6 innings, and then 7, 8, and 9 you play it as you will. Yeah, the 3 batter rule that they put in I think is okay. I'm not crazy about it, but yeah, so time of game, and then obviously DH in the AL and NL. That has to be a thing. I can't believe it's not going to be a thing this year in 2021. DH has to be in the NL and AL. Nobody wants to see a pitcher bat. I mean, it's just not something any fan wants to see. And I'm a Mets fan, and we have pretty good hitters on our team, but nobody wants to see a pitcher hit. And I mean, it just goes to show baseball is behind on everything. Yeah, you could tell they're not grabbing fans like other sports like football, basketball, hockey. I mean, even the MLS is attracting new fans, but baseball, it feels like they're just stuck in their ways and they're not changing. So I think DH has to be in the NL and the AL, no questions about it. They added the runner on second base in the extra inning rule. I mean, I'm really not a fan of it. I could live with it because the intensity that it brings, but I'm not really crazy about it. If they took it out, I'd be fine with that. And then just with the season, I mean, if teams know they're going to be so bad throughout the whole year, and it's just, I don't think it's fair to the sport, fair to fans, and fair to the game. I don't know what they could do to fix this. I know there's salary cap problems, and teams are a business and they got to make money. But it's just a shame to know, like, the Pirates this year have no chance. They're not even going to compete. They have like one of the lowest payrolls in baseball. They don't even have any stars on their team. I mean, they have Ke'Bryan Hayes, I think that's his name, coming up, and he looks promising. But I mean, teams like this, it's really embarrassing, and I wish something could happen to this. Just not even in baseball, but in every sport. And I think European sports have it great with relegation. I mean, I think relegation is phenomenal. I know baseball and all the sports in America will never have relegation just because of money. You know, their owners will never agree on it. But I think relegation would be one of the most monumental things that has ever happened to American sports, because there would be no more tanking. You would get punished if you tanked. Football can have a second league. You can have NFLB or whatever you want to call it. You could bring in more fans, more teams, more games to watch. I mean, it's a win-win for everyone. Of course, it's not going to happen because no owner is going to, especially the bad teams, are going to accept having a relegation when they might be there, be relegated the next year. So I think that's something that should really be looked into, relegation and promotion. I mean, if you ever seen English soccer, English football, I mean, it's phenomenal. With relegation and promotion, every single game matters. No matter how good or bad you are, every single game matters. And losing is not acceptable in any way. Yeah, so we're talking about soccer and baseball here. And these two sports, there's a few changes that have to be made. Basketball is a whole nother topic that could have its own video for. I like that they're talking about an in-season tournament, which I really like. I wish more sports would do this. I like how European sports, for soccer, you have Champions League, you have the FA Cup in England. You have all these different cups and tournaments, and there's so much to play for. It's not just, championship or nothing. And I like that. I know every team is not fighting for a championship. Only the top quarter of the league really is fighting for a championship in most sports. So I feel like this would be extremely entertaining to watch if there was a baseball tournament in season, which would be tough. It just something different. I mean, it's baseball's a long season, and you wish there was more to baseball. I mean, if they cut down on games and then added some other format of a tournament in season, that would be really cool. But that doesn't look like it's going to happen. It's not even thought of, especially with COVID now. Traveling is going to be as restricted as possible. But I mean, there's so many opportunities that could arise for American sports, and if there was promotion and relegation, there's so much more that would be on the line every single season. And bad teams will get punished, good teams will get rewarded, and I mean, that's how it should be. I mean, seeing the worst team in football get the number 1 pick in the draft, it's just, I'm not a fan of that. Like watching the Jets and Jaguars tank this year. I mean, a team rooting for their own team to lose, it's so embarrassing. That is so embarrassing in all levels. No matter what fan you are, no matter what team you represent, it's just that concept, that mentality is so wrong, especially for a fan. I mean, fans root for their team to win, to succeed. And I know Jet fans were saying, "Oh, if we tank, we'll get Trevor Lawrence, and we'll be better next year." So in reality, I am rooting for my team. But look what happened. You rooted for your team to get the first pick, and they didn't. And it came to bite them back. And we'll see what they even do. But to stay on topic, there's a lot of changes that have to be made. Soccer, baseball, football added another playoff spot. I think baseball could add another playoff spot. I mean, I know they added a few years ago now, they added the second wild card spot, which is really good. I liked the playoff format they had this year in 2020. A lot of teams. I mean, you could have that again in 2021. I wouldn't be completely against it. It would take away from the long season. But, I mean, when you have more cities competing at the end of the season, when you have more teams competing, it's just better for baseball. I mean, more people are going to watch, more is at stake, more is on the line, and it's just more fun to watch. I mean, a random game between, if the Mariners are in it and the Twins are in it at the end of the season and they're fighting for a playoff spot, I mean, it's going to be more enjoyable to watch. No one's going to watch two teams that are completely out of it. And I mean, more than 50% of the league's out of it by the All-Star break. And the All-Star break's in July. So that's like 2.5 months of just teams just playing games, not really in it. And it's tough to watch as a fan. I mean, it's not enjoyable. That's why baseball needs a lot of work. They need a lot of work promoting the sport. They just don't promote Mike Trout, who is the best player in baseball. I mean, ESPN doesn't promote him at all, and ESPN's coverage is just awful with baseball. If you ever heard their broadcast, their coverage is so bad. It's so cringy. The interviews are awful. Everything they just don't know what the fans really want, and I think that's why baseball is stuck in a bubble right now. I love baseball. It's probably one of my favorite sports. My most passionate team, the Mets, are part of baseball, and I want to see baseball grow, but there's a lot of changes that need to happen with sports, and I know it can't happen all at once, but these conversations should be brought up and talked about and discussed so that changes might happen. So that's all I got. Soccer, faking the injury is just ruining the sport at the end of the games. DH in both leagues has to be a thing for baseball. Basketball, I mean, the views are just decreasing every year. It's a failing sport right now. I can't imagine what it's going to be like without LeBron. And football has everything going for it right now. So that's all I got. Hopefully changes like this will happen. Promotion and relegation will happen in the future. Who knows? Maybe 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. But I think it would be good for every sport to have promotion and relegation. So that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Like the video and subscribe for more. And I'll see you guys on the next video.